This session will introduce you to Profiler and will give you an understanding of how it's set up and how to read the data. Profiler creates profiles of these people. A profile will provide greater understanding of a target group by investigating their characteristics, identifying characteristics of differentiation, and identifying similarities. So we're looking at the characteristics which differentiate one group from the average, and it will highlight the ways in which the target group is similar to or different from another group of interest. So for example, we might look at the demographic profile of bourbon drinkers, or how do Who Weekly readers compare in their travel habits to the average Australian, and what attitudes differentiate Ford and Holden drivers. Profiler will compile a target group profile. For example, percentage of those who agree with attitude statements and intention to purchase a particular item compared to the general population. Profiler allows comparison to a context group and/or a reference group. This diagram illustrates the three groups. First of all, we have the black circle, which is the context group. This is the population that the target and reference group are drawn from. The default is all, i.e. the general population of Australians 14+. The target group is the group being investigated. It exists wholly within the larger context group. The reference group can be included for comparison to both the context and target groups, and it also exists wholly within the larger context group. When we want to create a profile, we click on the Profiler button on the main toolbar. It gives us this profile window, and we have the three group options, and then we have candidates. First of all, the context. The context group by default will be all, but if you wish to specify a different context group, you can do so here. For example, you may want to pick New South Wales. We need to select a target group, and the target group is mandatory. The default may be all, but of course you'd be specifying your particular group of interest. Then we have the reference group. Again, the default is all. If you don't want to specify a reference group, you don't have to, but if you wish to compare reference and target groups, then place a reference group in here. So for example, we may have Ford drivers here and reference group as Holden drivers. The last option here is candidates, and this looks at the characteristics that you may be interested in. You can include many different items in here, for example, socioeconomic scale, demographics, attitude statements, and so on. Once you have specified your groups and candidates, you then need to go into the Settings task area and look at the Profiler options that you have. This ranking area is very important. When you run the Profiler task, you'll see that you have index values for the target group and for the reference group. So this enables you to identify when a target group may be more or less likely than the general population to have a particular attitude or to be a particular demographic, etc. And the same for the reference group. So these index values allow you to either compare target group with context group, reference group with context group, or target group with reference group. The default is the index comparing target and context group. It'll rank the index values in descending order, and this option will look at the likelihood of something within the target group compared to the context group. For example, we may say family life readers are 67% more likely than the general population to be women. You also have the option to rank the table based on weighted counts, either target, context, or reference size. So for example, you may specify you want to rank on target size. Ranking on target size will display the number of people in the target group per characteristic. Therefore, you can ascertain what are the predominant characteristics within the target group. For example, you may be able to say that the predominant characteristic of family life readers is that they are women. We then have display threshold settings. First of all, minimum weighted count. This will only display a row item if the weighted count is over a number specified here. Note that this is based on the weight set used in the database. In a single source database, it would always be in thousands. Therefore, if the number specified is 30, this would indicate a weighted count of 30,000. The next setting, minimum target reach percentage, is used when the candidate variables are media items. This will only display a row item if the target reach percentage is over a number specified here. For example, if you specify 30%, it would not display any media item that reaches less than 30% of the target. And finally, minimum index, and this is only applicable when ranking on index. This will only display a row item if the index value is over the number specified here. And then the last option is use short labels. If you tick this option, the table will display short names, i.e. data names, of variable groups, rather than the full names, i.e. descriptions. For example, it may display AB instead of AB quintile, or mid-house instead of midlife household.